Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. We'll begin with our prayers. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuro-nmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavan Shri Rupam Sagrajata सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितां हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणि जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 Hare Krishna. So we are continuing our discussion from Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 4, Chapter 14. Today we are starting 14, right? Okay. So far we have heard. One question. अरे शुरू करने का नहीं इसका मतलब पहले का था प्रहलाद महाराज and Dhruv Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj didn't do any yoga and all. Dhruv Maharaj is a yogi. That is my question. He's a bhakti yogi. In Satya Yoga, the way was to do Ashtanga Yoga. But his Ashtanga Yoga, taught by Narad Muni, was prominently Bhakti Yoga because it included deity worship, included chanting of the names of the Lord. And he did that in meditation, in that, whatever he did in 6 months. That was the prominent form of his tapasya. So, but it was not. He was meditating on the Paramatma in the Paramatma. And Narad Muni had taught the details of what is the description of the form of the Lord in the heart. It was not imaginary form. We heard that in the chapters, various chapters. I think in the 3rd chapter, in the 8th chapter, when Narad Muni met. Yeah, that complete description is there. Prasanna Vadanam Boja Padma Garbharunekshanam, ऐसा बहुत कुछ आता है. Like that. Prahlad Maharaj, there is no description of his tapasya, meditation. Maybe he's a Kripa Siddha. Or maybe there is one story which comes in Puranas, how in the past life he was a person who was attached to some lady and they wanted to enjoy. So they went to forest and there was a Narsim temple there. So that was Narsimha Chaturdashi Day. So Narsimha Dev doesn't appear only in one kalpa. Every kalpa there he appears. So he cleaned the place very nicely. That was the service he did to Lord Narsimha Dev. That is one of the stories which I have heard. That gave him such a sukriti that he became such a wonderful devotee. And of course, we know he heard wonderful lessons from Narad Muni when he was in the womb of his mother. That is also most important part, hearing from pure devotee of the Lord. So previous life's sukriti and this life's association of great devotee. So that both made him such a wonderful devotee of the Lord. Apart from that, I have not heard some other descriptions. Any of you have heard any other description? Chosen because when she Priti becomes quite distressed, this is what happened. Yeah.
So that time.
Yes.
So there's also prediction.
Correct. We heard in third canto.
And he glorified
Kashyap
Lord
Muni.
while he was preaching to his fellow students.
So that was he was already a pure devotee. But yeah, Prabhuji was telling this. When Kashyap and Ditika they united at the wrong time, then Kashyap gives benediction that your grandson will be a pure devotee of the Lord. That is also one of the most important factors.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we heard the story of Dhruv Maharaj and how he attained perfection, went home back to Godhead, and Narad Muni described the glory of Dhruv Maharaj in the assembly of Prachetas. We heard the story of Prachetas also a little bit. So Vidurji, as a very inquisitive devotee, he asked Maitreya Muni, can you please tell me about Prachetas? Who were they? Where did they do tapasya? Which family they come from? So because Prachetas, they come in the family of Dhruv Maharaj, dynasty of Dhruv Maharaj. So Maitreya Muni now started, in the previous chapter, he started describing the dynasty of Dhruv Maharaj. And then he came up to Anga Maharaj. And Anga Maharaj, he was such a great devoted king, but he married this daughter of Mrityu, death personified, Sunitha. And because of that, they begot a very sinful son, and his name was Vena. He was so sinful that he would kill his friends while playing. He would kill animals indiscriminately. Anga Maharaj tried to reform him many times, but of no use. So in frustration, he left kingdom. Vena became the king, and he continued continuing giving troubles. That's what we'll hear in this chapter, 14th chapter.
Okay, I doubt. Why Anga Maharaj just married to Daka? Means no seat.
I'm not sure how this marriage happened. Bhagavatam doesn't mention. Anyone knows the story? Okay, so we'll continue from 14th chapter, the story of King Vena. Maitreya Uvacha Brigvadayaste Munayo Lokanam Shemadarshinaha Bhoptare Sati Vainrinam Pashyanta Pashu Samyatam.
The great sage Maitreya continued, O great hero Vidura, the great sages headed by Bhrigu were always thinking of the welfare of the people in general. When they saw that in the absence of King Anga, there was no one to protect the interests of the people, they understood that without the ruler, the people become independent and non-revolutionary.
So all the sages, they were now very, very concerned that there is no king now. Anga has left. Who will rule the kingdom? The kingdom may be exploited. And who will take care of the welfare of the citizens in general? So Prabhupada writes the sages were Shemadarshinaha. Shemadarshina means those who are always looking after the welfare of people in general. As when Gargacharya goes to Nanda Maharaj, the name giving ceremony. So Nanda Maharaj speaks a very beautiful verse. Mahad vichalanam nrinam grihinam dina chetasam nishrayasaya bhagavan kalpate nanyatha kvachit. He says, great people like you, Mahat, vichalanam, they travel only for dina chetasam, only for the welfare of, because you have compassionate heart, and nishrayasaya, you roam only for the welfare of people in general. Nishrayasaya. Nanyatha kvachit, you have no other purpose. So the sages, they are always Shemadarshinaha. So all these great sages, they were thinking how to elevate all the people in general. So Prabhupada writes, the sages, they used to advise the head of the state, and he used to rule with their instruction. After disappearance of Anga, there was no one to follow the instruction of the sages. Consequently, the citizens became unruly, and so much so that they could be compared to animals. So Prabhupada writes how in every society there must be order, varnashram system that keeps them in a proper state of mind. Having no knowledge of the ultimate goal of life, persons whimsically enact laws without knowledge of life's purpose. The result is that no one is happy. If one wants to be happy, they have to follow the principles given by Krishna. So, that is what is dharma. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Whatever is given by Krishna, that is dharma. And if one follows the principles of dharma, then naturally one is happy. Nasti buddhirayuktasya anachayuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata shantir ashantasya kutasnam. 2.66, Krishna says this. If one is not focusing his mind and intelligence on me, nasti buddhi nachayuktasya bhavana, buddhi and bhavana, then there can be no peace. And if there is no peace, how can there be happiness? So the sages are really concerned. They called mother of Vena, Sunitha. Veeramataramahuya Sunitham Brahmavadinah Prakritya Sammatam Venam Abhyasincan Patim Bhuva.
The great sages then called for the king's mother, Sunitha, and with her permission, they installed Vena on the throne as master of the world. All the ministers, however, disagreed with this.
So none of them agreed because they knew that he is such a bad person with all the bad character. But still, there was no other way. There was no one else. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, there are two versions of this text, Prakriti Asammatam. Prakriti Asammatam means not approved by ministers, citizens or his mother. And Prakriti Asammatam means not approved because of his nature. So because of his nature, they never approved Vena to become king. But what to do? The sages had no other option. They thought at least if he is given some responsibility, maybe he will change. Sometimes we also do that. If some devotee is not, उसको इंचार्ज बना दो, ट्रबल मेकर को इंचार्ज बनाओ, सुधर जाएगा, या तो सबका हालत खराब करेगा. So
प्रभुपाद ने भी ज्ञान में वो बड़े हरिदास को उनको ये दिया, इंचार्ज किया. इन्होंने उनका दिस वॉच चोरी किया था ना, उनको एक मेन बनाया, उन्होंने ऑब्जेक्शन किया.
So Prabhupada had that vision. He could see that. So he was like in the beginning phases. So Prabhupada was using everyone just to continue this Bhakti movement. And of course he had that power. He was like a billionaire father who can tell his son, I give you 1 crore, you go and try opening something. Fail ho gaya, koi baat, chalega. I am billionaire. So Prabhupada was like that. So he could afford that. But now we are established movement. So we have to make sure that position is given to a person who is responsible. Otherwise he'll create havoc. Or for time being he'll create troubles. He may get transformed. The chances are there. But ideal is put a person who is responsible, who is mature. Okay. Shrutva nripasanagatam Venam atyugra shasanam Ninilyurdasya vasatya Sarpatrasthaivakavaha. One good thing happened when Vena became king. Translation.
It was already known that Vena was very severe and cruel. Therefore, as soon as all the thieves and rogues in the state heard of his ascendance to the royal throne, they became very much afraid of him. Indeed, they hid themselves here and there. Rats eat themselves from snakes.
आसमान से गिरे खजूर में अटके वाली बात है. So citizens, they were troubled from both ways, from the rogues and thieves and Vena. So at least now rogues and thieves are gone because he was so cruel. Vena was so cruel. Prabhupada writes, when the government is very weak, the rogues and thieves, they flourish. But when the government is very strong, all the rogues and thieves, they disappear. So although Vena was not a very good king, he was very cruel. He was known to be very cruel, that even rogues and thieves would fear. Nobody can trust how he will behave. He was such a cruel personality. He was himself cruel, he was not following any religious principles. And rogues who were also like that, but they were fearful of Vena. ये हमसे ज्यादा नालायक है. He is a bigger thief than us. सारूढ़ नृपस्थान उन्नतो अष्टविभूतिभिः अवमेने महाभागान् स्तब्ध संभावित स्वतः.
When the king ascended to the throne, he became all powerful with 8 kinds of opulences. Consequently, he became too proud. By virtue of his false prestige, he considered himself to be greater than anyone. Thus, he began to insult great personalities.
So he was endowed with 8 opulences. So what are these 8 opulences? He became proud because of possessing wealth from 8 directions. So he ruled over all the 7 continents. So he became very proud. He was a great warrior himself. He was a scholar. He was a learned person. But the knowledge doesn't mean no one will have a good character also. Ravana was also a great scholar. Prabhupada writes, the king is supposed to possess 8 kinds of opulences. By the dint of mystic practice, the king has generally acquired these 8 opulences. 8 mystic siddhis Prabhupada is talking about. And you know the 8 mystic siddhis? Kamavashaita and Parakamya. So generally the kings, they would do great tapasya and they would get these mystic powers. So Prabhupada is talking about the mystic powers and Chakravarti Thakur is describing about another dimension, possessing wealth from the 8 directions. But the important thing is what he started doing, he began to insult the great personalities. Avamene Mahabhagan. Avamene means he started insulting. Ayu, Shriyo, Yasho, Dharma, Lokana, Shisha, Evacha, Hanti, Shreyamsi, Sarvani, Pumso, Mahad, Atikramaha. When somebody offends great personalities, 6 things they are destroyed. Ayu, Shriya, Yash, Dharma, Lokanashish. 5 things are destroyed. So because he was so sinful, he started insulting. So what happened after that? Evam madando utsikto निरंकुश इव द्विपः पर्यटन रथमास्थाय कंपयन्निव रोदसी.
When he became overly blind due to his prudence, King Vena mounted a chariot and, like an uncontrolled elephant, began to travel through the kingdom, causing the sky and earth to tremble wherever he went.
Mother Andha, he became blinded by the wealth, by opulences. Utsikta, he became proud and blind, like an uncontrolled elephant. Nirankush iva dvipaha. Dvipa means elephant. And started traveling all over the world, creating trouble. Na yashtavyam na datavyam na hotavyam dujakvachet iti nyavarayat dharmam heri ghoshena sarvashah.
All the twice-born Brahmanas were forbidden henceforward to perform any sacrifice, and they were also forbidden to give charity or offer clarified butter. Thus, King Vena sounded kettle drums throughout the countryside. In other words, he stopped all kinds of religious rituals.
Na yashtavyam, na datavyam, yashtavyam, sacrifice, datavyam, charity, hotavyam, yagya, nyavarayat. He stopped everything. And he would just create terror in everyone's hearts. So Prabhupada writes, what was committed by Vena many years ago, it present being carried out by many atheistic governments. World situation is so tense that at any moment government may issue declaration to stop religious rituals. Eventually the world situation will become so degraded it will be impossible for pious men to live. Therefore, sane man should execute Krishna consciousness very seriously and go back. Alan Ginsberg asked Prabhupada, Swamiji, what will happen at the end of Kali Yuga? So Prabhupada got hold of his collar, brought him near. He said, I will eat you and you will eat me. So that is the situation at the end of Kali Yuga. And Vena was creating such a situation, terrorizing everyone. Venasyaveksha muneyo Yurvrittasya vicheshtitam Vibhrishya lokavyasanam Kripayochu smas satrinaha.
Therefore, all the great sages assembled together and after observing cruel Vena's atrocities, concluded that a great danger and catastrophe was approaching the people of the world. Thus, out of compassion, they began to talk among themselves, for they themselves were performers of the sacrifices.
So all these sages, they planned to meet Vena and they thought that we will pacify him. So seeing the atrocities, they were really concerned about population. So that's how the great souls are, the saintly people, just like Vyasadeva we have seen in the beginning of Bhagavatam. He was concerned about the welfare of people in general. He saw how people, they would become very sinful, they would not be able to remember anything. Bhautikanam cha bhavanam shakti rasam cha tatkritam ashraddhana nisattvan durmedhan rashitayushaha. Less age, unfortunate, always quarreling. Durbhagam shajanan vikshya. Durbhagam, all these unfortunate people, Vyasadeva was seeing them. So he wrote Bhagavatam, wrote all the Vedas, divided the Vedas, and everything he wrote down for the welfare of people in general. So Prabhupada writes how the sages, they are always concerned with people in general. They are always thinking of their welfare. But karmis, they are only busy in acquiring money. And the jnanis, they are always busy in speculating. But saintly people, they want that people should become materially also happy and spiritually also happy. So therefore, these sages, they began consulting. What they spoke? Next verse translation.
When the great sages consulted one another, they saw that the people were in a dangerous position from both directions. When a fire blazes on both ends of a log, the ants in the middle are in a very dangerous situation. Similarly, at that time, the people in general were in a dangerous position due to an irresponsible king on one side and thieves and rogues on the other.
So that was the situation of the citizens. They were like ants trapped in the middle. Next verse translation.
Thinking to save the state from irregularity, the sages began to consider that it was due to a political crisis that they made Vena king, although he was not qualified. But alas, now the people were being disturbed by the king himself under such circumstances. How could the people be happy?
So because of the political crisis, Arajak Bhaya, they thought there's so much irregularity in the state. So if there is a king, then there will be some steadiness. But the situation became worse. They were troubled by the thieves also, and now they were disturbed and troubled by king also. So Prabhupada writes that he quotes 18.5 Yagyadana tapak karma natyajyam karyamev tat yagyodanam tapashaiva pavanani manishinam. They should never be given up. These are the procedures by which everyone can be elevated to a spiritual platform. But Vena stopped everything. He stopped yajna, he stopped dan, he stopped all the punya karma. So therefore, how will people become Krishna conscious? Now they become really anxious. So they thought, how they were thinking. Prabhupada writes, there must be a good government to see that the citizens are actually executing their rituals, religious rituals, and the thieves and rogues must be curbed. That is the role of an ideal king. So thinking like this, what to do? They began to think among themselves. Aher iva paya posha poshakasyapyanartha bhet vena prakrityeva khalaha nitha garbha sambhavaha.
Sages began to think within themselves because he was born from the womb of Sunita. The king Vena is by nature very mischievous. Supporting this mischievous king is exactly like making a snake drink. Now he has become a source of poverty.
So Prabhupada writes, generally the saintly people are not interested and not so much getting into the materialistic affairs. But whenever there is calamity or some emergency situation, saintly people may enter into political situation. They have to do something. So Prabhupada writes, generally they are aloof. King Vena was supported by saintly person just to protect the citizens. But it was going other way. So therefore, the saintly people were really disturbed. And they were thinking that we are maintaining a snake, it seems. So Vena, he was not obliged to the sages. You can come this way. So Vena, he was not obliged to the sages. And Prabhupada writes, Chakravarti Thakur writes in the purport, what to speak of being a danger to citizens? We have made him a king and now he is punishing us. And he's announcing that we cannot perform sacrifice. They became really angry. They became disturbed. So that's how the demons are. They don't allow sacrifices. That's how Kamsa did. He told all his ministers and demons, you go and destroy all the yajnas, you destroy all the cow sheds and cows, kill the cows. Hiranyakashipu also did the same thing. So that's how demons, they behave. The demons, they are taught all this. That's what Prahlad was being taught in the Chandamarka University. US में यही पढ़ा रहे थे हमको, University of Chandamarka. So demigods, the demons, they are taught all this and they are really working hard. So demonic civilization means learning diplomacy, duplicity, politics, cheating. So sages, they were become really disturbed. What to do now? Nirupita prajapala sajigham sativai praja tathapi santavyeya tathapi santvaye mamum nasmam satpatakam spishe.
We appointed this Vena, king of state, in order to give protection to the citizens. But now he has become the enemy of the citizens. Despite all these difficulties, we should at once try to pacify him. By doing so, we may not be touched by the sinful results caused by him.
So they were thinking, let's go and try pacifying Samadam. Just try to pacify him. He is very mischievous. So let's try something. So Prabhupada writes, the sages elected Vena, but he became very mischievous. So the sages were afraid of incurring sinful reaction. That we have made him a king, and whatever he is doing, we will also become sinful. That's how whenever charity is given, if the person misuses it, one becomes implicated. Law of karma prohibits a person even to associate with a mischievous individual. Nishkinchanasya bhagavat bhajanonmukhasya param param jigimashor bhavasagarasya. If somebody wants to cross over the material world, be careful of two things. Sandarshanam vishayinam atha yoshitam. Vishay and vishayi. Which is more dangerous? Vishayi. Why?
Because of Sangha, we may become.
Okay.
You get that desires.
Okay. What else? The desires will come, okay, ठीक है. The desires to come by enjoying sense gratification also.
It flourishes now because that association Sangha will then manifest it. To meet a Vishay, we may find solutions for the Vishay. When Vishay comes together,
Hmm.
then it has loving six exchanges will take place and it will have Priti about the Vishayas.
Vishay will never speak anything wrong about sense gratification. 25 पैसे का सर्कस सुना है ना आप लोगों ने 25 पैसे का सर्कस. He will never say मेरी पिटाई हुई. He will always encourage others in sense gratification. So that's why Vishay is more dangerous. He will never allow us to become detached. Nishkinchanasya Bhagavat. This is from Hari Bhakti Sudhoday. Quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Many times Prabhupada also quotes this. Param param jigimashor bhavasagarasya sandarshanam vishainam yoshitam. Vishay and Vishay. Ha hanta hanta vishbhakshanatopya sadhu. It is better to stay in a pit full of snakes than to associate with Vishay and Vishay.
So it is the relationship between the king and the Praja, between the king. So it is applicable in today's context also. Na? Like we elected the king, we elected the person. So whatever they are doing, we are equally responsible for that. No?
Equally तो नहीं.
So here it is like even Vishnu was
यहाँ थोड़ा कुछ तो लगेगा ही. थोड़ा तो पाप लगेगा ही. हमने बिठाया ऊपर वालों को तो.
But there, the pages,
Yeah,
they were
appointed.
looking in a.
we also appointed.
I don't know how
We
we can
elected.
compare.
Same. One has the same process.
अभी देखिए यहाँ पे प्रिंसिपल्स वो मोनार्की का दिखाया जा रहा है. अभी डिमॉन क्रेजी वाला नहीं है इधर.
Yeah, I'm just saying whichever state.
Maybe.
Yeah, because
थोड़ा कुछ तो मिलता ही होगा.
We are rooted for that
Yeah.
government.
थोड़ा तो होगा कुछ तो.
नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन आएगा फिर वोट नहीं करना है.
नहीं वोट का सवाल नहीं है. I'm saying कि that what is the solution for this? Today's also Bhagavatam.
There is no solution.
Adeshan was mentioning this point, like when we give charity and they misuse that charity. So.
उन्होंने बोला ना प्रसाद लेके चलो हमेशा.
हाँ. नहीं वो तो प्रसाद का.
About beggars.
Giving money, yeah.
They give money, they may misuse. So devotee should carry some prasad. Prasad दो उनको.
Prabhuji, one beggar I found, he even threw the prasad.
हाँ, वो प्रसाद भी फेंक देते हैं वो. Yeah. They want money because प्रसाद का क्या करेंगे? वो खाना उनको बहुत मिलता है. Next time उनको नहीं देना है.
And the person who was serving the Guru is a more dangerous situation.
अपनी व्यथा बता रहे हैं, समझ नहीं रहे हैं.
I'm saying it's a more dangerous situation.
बोली वो दुखे रे कथा.
There is a Ashirwad. They say, I'll just take 1 minute.
Yeah.
So the question was also in the temple. Many people come and
Donate. उसका क्या करना है?
So उसका अभी reactions and the temple
वो
residents.
तो इसमें एनओआई में भी है ना एक खतरनाक स्टेटमेंट है ना प्रभुपाद का.
Temple residents.
हाँ बोलिए.
Temple residents specifically, they have the
Food
and everything. So what happens to that? In a way, yes, that karma definitely goes, but one thing helps them, because if it is a Archa Vigraha established by the Guru Parampara, and the Guru nullifies that. So because they are under the Ashraya of the Guru, so that is what the senior devotees have told. So you are also in the same position where Maharaj has told to be there.
Yeah, some things are unavoidable. We have one Mataji in temple in our congregation. Before she became devotee, she had a dog, and bichara. Then she became devotee, and then dog died because of something. So natural. She was so attached to a dog. Till today, she sponsors prasad on birthday and death anniversary of dog. तो बोले हम क्या खा रहे हैं? But we cannot fast. क्यों आज फास्टिंग करेंगे? किसके लिए हो रहा है? देखो. So some things are unavoidable in Kali Yuga. We have to just.
The law of karma is very intricate. It's very difficult.
We should not be so much obsessed with intricacies of karma when it comes to practicing devotional service. We have Varadhasta of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our Acharyas. So if we are doing whatever Acharyas are telling us, then we are protected by them. Whatever is happening, that is their desire. That is Krishna's, call. He will do whatever is good for us. Because some things we didn't do consciously something. जानबूझ के जा के बाहर खा रहे हैं, that is a different thing. अभी मंदिर में है, अभी ऑप्शन ही नहीं है, तो फिर क्या करेंगे? So that is offered to the Lord, and we are taking that prasad. So that's how it is. So some things are unavoidable in Kali Yuga. We cannot say black and white. Black and white है ही नहीं कुछ Kali Yuga में. Whatever we eat is contaminated by something. Ideal varnashram में मतलब प्रसाद मतलब it should be sown by a devotee, grown by a devotee, cut by a devotee, transported and cooked by. अभी किधर से अभी क्या पॉसिबल नहीं है. So let's do the needful. Okay, translation. हाँ वही ज़्यादा अटेंडेंस आ रहा है.
Just move the chairs. Last Sunday की नहीं.
अच्छा उसका कंपनसेशन है क्या? फिर 2-3 संडे ऑनलाइन करते हैं, फिर एक संडे ऑफलाइन करेंगे.
क्या होता है
तो
संडे
फंस जाएगा.
तो ऐसा लगता है बहुत हम लोग मिस किया तो फिर लोग और उत्साह से आते हैं.
Chakravarti Thakur writes, so these sages, they are thinking, by arguments we will enlighten him. Doing this, सुनिए यहाँ पे आपका आंसर दिया जा रहा है. By arguments we will enlighten him. Chakravarti Thakur writes that. Doing this, we will not be touched by sin. Otherwise, we will become sinful. We tried our best. What can be done? It is not that we didn't try, but we tried our best. So now we cannot do anything. So sages, they continued thinking. Next verse translation, please.
Sages, they just continued thinking. Of course, we are completely aware of his mischievous nature. Yet, nevertheless, we enthrone Vena. If we cannot persuade King Vena to accept our advice, we will be condemned by the public. We will join them. Thus, by our prowess, we shall burn him to ashes.
पहले प्लान करके गए, ऐसा नहीं कि वहां पे spontaneous devotion आया उनको. They didn't become angry, just because on the spur of the moment. They had planned like that. We will try to pacify him, we'll try to teach him lessons, but if nothing happens, then we will kill him. Prabhupada writes, saintly persons are not interested in political matters, yet they are always thinking of welfare of people in general. Sometimes they have to come down to the political field and take steps to correct the misguided government. Of course, the sages at that time had the power to do so. That is more important. Prabhupada writes that also. Now, saintly people have no such power. Indeed, the Brahmanas do not even have the power to perform sacrifices. Ashwamedh, Gomedh, they can't do all that. So therefore, क्या करना है? Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. That's it. No taking weapons in the hands. Because in current scenario, ये क्षत्रिय स्वभाव बहुत ज्यादा होता है लोगों में. Prabhupada, when he was in Delhi, and he went to mayor for help. And he said, can you please give me some opportunity to preach this Bhagavad Gita? And mayor said, okay, if you can transform the prisoners of Delhi jail, then we can do something. I'll help you. So Prabhupada, he took it as challenge. He started weekly classes for prisoners of Delhi jail. Prabhupada ने बहुत कुछ किया भाई. And actually they started getting transformed. And this mayor, he would take feedback from the jailer. And he would tell this, yes, the prisoners are becoming reformed. So then he took it seriously. Then he helped Prabhupada in some ways. So that is the way we can transform. By teaching Krishna consciousness, by transforming the hearts. We cannot take weapons in our hands. So thinking like this, the sages decided to approach Vena, concealing their real anger. You're really angry. But ठीक है भाई, अभी सामने गुस्सा नहीं करेंगे. They pacified him. Munaya uchuhu Nripavarya nibodhaita yatte vigyapayamabho आयु श्री बल कीर्तिना तत्ता तव तात विवर्धनम.
Great sages said, "Dear king, we have come to give you good advice. Kindly hear us with great attention. By doing so, your duration of life and your opulence, strength, and reputation will increase."
So they are very sweetly speaking, "Oh dear king, नृपवर्य." जैसे प्रहलाद महाराज बोलते हैं ना, क्या बोलते हैं वो, असुर वर्य, oh best of the demons. Prabhupada tells, that's how the devotee should go and preach to great big people, glorify them. You are such a great donor and you are such a charitable person, and now you should give up all your nonsense. And after you glorify, his heart will open and then you speak how nonsense you are. So, Nripavarya Nibodha, please hear. We have come to give you good advice. Vigyapayama. And if you follow our advice, your 4 things will increase. Ayu, Shri, Bal, Kirti. So these 4 things are needed for any king. They are very attractive. So they are saying, Prabhupada writes, according to Vedic civilization, in a monarchy, a king is advised by saintly people. By their advice, he can become greatest executive power, and everyone will be happy, peaceful, and prosperous. But unfortunately, in Kali Yuga, the government does not follow the instructions of saintly people. Prabhupada tried many times writing to Indira Gandhi also.
Even the Mahatma Gandhi.
Mahatma Gandhi also. Prabhupada had a great plan.
नेहरू को नहीं लिखा हमने कभी.
नेहरू वही यहाँ पे क्यों अभी ये सभा को खराब कर रहे हैं. नेहरू चाचा, नेहरू हमारे. Anyways, so he had a big plan. Oh, he told all the member of parliament they should do Mangal Aarti before entering parliament. Chant 16 rounds. ऐसे सब चारों बहुत सारा plan था Prabhupada का. But the letter never reached Indira Gandhi, it seems. So Prabhupada told many times that the government should follow some saintly people. And because they are not following now all this, neither the government is happy nor citizens are happy. Dharmacharita pumsam vanmanakaya buddhivihi lokan vishokan vitarati athanantyam asanginam.
Those who live according to religious principles and who follow them by words, mind, body, and intelligence are elevated to the heavenly kingdom, which is devoid of all miseries. Being thus rid of the material influence, they achieve unlimited happiness in life.
So now they are preparing a background that if you follow our advice, you will get material things and you will get heaven also. In this world you will be happy, in the next world you will be happy. Dharma acharita, those who live according to dharma, following with their van, mana, kaya, buddhi. Kayena vacha, manasa, indriyarva. These 4 things come always. Words, mind, body, and intelligence. Lokan, vishokan, vitarati. They achieve higher planets. And vishokan, vitarati. They are devoid of all miseries. And they achieve unlimited. Anantya. They achieve unlimited happiness. They achieve liberation also ultimately. So happiness in this world, happiness in heaven, and then liberation. So very nicely they are presenting their thoughts. The sages herein instruct that the king should set an example by his religious life. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, yad yada acharati sreshtha. One should not simply make a show of religious life, but one should perform devotional service perfectly with words, mind, body, and good intelligence. एतावत् जन्म साफल्यम देहिनामिह देहेषु प्राणैर अर्थैर धिया वाचा श्रेय आचरणं सदा. The perfection of the life is to use mind, body, words, and intelligence in service of the Supreme Lord. Next verse they say, therefore, if you follow, then you will not fall down. If you don't follow, certainly you will fall down from your position. Satema vinashed vira prajanam shema lakshanaha tasmin vinashte nrupati aishwaryadavarohati.
The
Sages continue. A great hero, for this reason you should not be the cause of spoiling the spiritual life of the general populace. If their spiritual life is spoiled because of your activities, you will certainly fall down from your opulent and royal position.
So you should not be the cause of spoiling the spiritual life of general population. If their spiritual life is spoiled, then you will fall down. So by our actions, if somebody else is troubled in their spiritual practices, we will also suffer the results. Prabhupada writes, formerly monarchies, but gradually as monarchy declined from the ideal life of religion to godless life of sense gratification, monarchies all over the world were abolished. Similarly, however, simply abolishing monarchy is not sufficient. If we have abolished monarchy, but the democracy is also not religious democracy. So the result is the same. People are engaged in sense gratification. Andha yathandi rupaniyamana is still happening. So now they continue that if you follow what we are saying, you will be pious. And what is the duty of a pious king? Next 3 verses describes that. What will happen to a pious king? Translation?
The saintly person continued, when the king protects the citizen from the disturbances of mischievous ministers as well as from thieves and rogues, he can, by virtue of such pious activities, accept taxes given by his subjects. Thus, a pious king can certainly enjoy himself in this world as well as in life after death.
Yes. So what is the duty of a pious king? To protect citizens. Kshatrayati iti kshatriya. So therefore, foremost duty is to give protection. And if a king can't protect citizens, then he can't take taxes from them. And Prabhupada writes in the purport, how in Kali Yuga, in the end of Kali Yuga, what will happen? The thieves, the government will become less than Shudras, they'll become rogues. Prajate bhakshaishyanti malichha rajanya rupinaha. Prabhupada quotes that verse. Kings will tyrannize the subjects and they will cultivate the most vicious practices. Thus, practicing evil habits and behaving foolishly, the subjects will be like their rulers. Rulers will be demoniac and the citizens will also become demoniac. So in Kali Yuga, actually everybody is like Shudra only, Kalau Shudra Sambhavaha. And the more age is progressing, the 4th class population is increasing. So Prabhupada writes about that, how in the previous ages, they were not so degraded, general population was not so degraded because the king was a devotee or a Rajrishi. But now because the situation is such that the kings and the leaders, they are themselves demoniac, not following the religious principles, what can you expect from the society? Yasya rashtre pure chaiva bhagavan yajna purushaha vidyate svena dharmena janairvarna shamanvitai.
King is supposed to be pious in whose state and city's general populace strictly observe the system of 8 social orders of Varna and Ashrama, and where all citizens engage in worshipping the supreme personality of Godhead by their particular occupations.
Yeah. So they are teaching nicely what is the duty of a pious king. He should observe all the religious principles, maintain social order, Varna and Ashram, and in this way he will satisfy the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada writes about the duties of the 4 varnas and the 4 ashramas, the state's duty and the citizen's duty. They both are explained. The king should protect the citizens and the citizens should follow the varnashram. That is a duty of both. And in this way, when they both are following their duties, what is the purpose of varnashram? Varnashram acharavata purushena parapuman Vishnu aradhyate pantha. The purpose is worshipping Lord Vishnu, Yajna Purusha. Because when Yajna Purusha is pleased, naturally there will be peace in the society. Prabhupada quotes how every varnashram can, every varna can serve the Lord according to their occupation. He quotes this famous verse from Bhagavad Gita. Swakarmana tam abhyarchya. According to your occupational duty, you can serve the Lord. That is how one can serve the Lord in any situation. As Chaitanya Charambu says, what is varnashram? From your place, at your pace, join the race to receive the grace. So that is varnashram system. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, try to please the Lord. So that is varnashram. Ultimately, samsiddhi hari toshana is the ultimate goal of all the varna and ashrama. Prabhupada writes. He says, yeah, we'll go to the next verse. Next is a next verse. Tasya ragyo mahabhaga Bhagavan bhuta bhavanaha परितुष्यति विश्वात्मा तिष्ठतो निज शासने.
O noble one, if the king sees that the supreme personality of Godhead, the ocean cause of the cosmic manifestation and the super soul within everyone is worshipped, the Lord will be satisfied.
So if everybody is worshipping the Lord will be satisfied. So it is duty of the king to see that the Lord is satisfied. All the citizens are worshipping the Lord. That is the duty of the king. Prabhupada writes, at present moment, Prabhupada quotes this, Bhuta Bhavana. The word used here is Bhuta Bhavana. So the Lord is Bhuta Bhavan or Vishwatma. Bhuta Bhavan means one who is the original cause of cosmic manifestation. So if somebody is serving Bhuta Bhavana, then naturally everybody will be pleased and satisfied. At present moment, neither the king nor the government body is interested in serving the Lord. They are just interested in their own sense gratification. Therefore, they are getting implicated more and more in the modes of nature. And then Prabhupada writes, only by practice of bhakti one can be free from all this. Which verse in Bhagavad Gita says that? By practice of devotional service one becomes free from the modes. Mam chayo avyabhichareena bhakti yogena sevate saguna samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya vartante. So that's how when the Lord is worshipped, then naturally one becomes free from the modes, naturally one becomes happy. Somebody may say, why Lord wants to be worshipped so much? He's such an egoistic person. No. When we worship the Lord, we are maximum beneficiary. Naivatmana prabhurayam nijalabha purno manam janada vidusha karuno vrinite yad yad jano bhagavate vidadhita manam tachatmani pratimukhasya yatha mukhashri. Prahlad Maharaj is telling to Narsimdev. He says, oh my Lord, when we worship you, we get the maximum benefit. It is like when somebody is decorated, the mirror image is already decorated. Automatically, one doesn't have to decorate the mirror. So when one worships the Lord, naturally one gets beneficiary. One gets the maximum benefit. So that's how. Otherwise, if we are not worshipping the Lord, we are troubled. Yasmin tushte jagat tushtam. That is the understanding we should always have.
In present situation, there is a whatever worship is going on. Also, that is also not. They are using that medium of worshipping this into their own sense gratification. That is one more dangerous. Like the festivals will come, and all the songs of filming. This is like more dangerous than even worshipping God. So it becomes
गणेश जी भी सोचते होंगे किसके लिए बजा रहे हैं.
even kings are they other all these state is allowing them, funding them, so many things are happening.
Because the government is demoniac or government is sense gratificatory government.
Yeah.
So they'll inspire people to eat and drink and enjoy sex life. They'll not inspire government to practice bhakti. So passionate government and ignorant government, they will always promote all these shopping malls, all these liquor shops, movie theaters, brothels. So what can be done? So government in Sattva Guna will promote temple worship, prasad distribution, spiritual education.
Not only government, they're not.
People are anyways, general population is anyways interested in sense gratification. But it is a duty of the superior to control them.
Why do a name of religion?
Huh?
You tell I am enjoying, why you tell I want to take Ganpati's name and do that?
Because they get a satisfaction also ना कि हम भी थोड़ा सा guilt feeling नहीं होता है ना. We are religious.
Religiosity.
So we are doing that also and we are आपकी तरह नहीं हम लोग fanatic. हाँ हम सब balance में करते हैं. That's how people are. So government should take care of the personal values, interpersonal values, social values, spiritual values. But the government is demoniac. What to do? Government is in themselves interested in sense gratification.
Yeah, your festival है Ganesh festival declared as a state festival.
It was started by वो ना लोकमान्य तिलक.
नहीं वो तो अभी क्या अभी ये गवर्नमेंट है they declared this as a state sponsored festival. ये particular festival.
नहीं उसमें एक अच्छा है वो end of that Ganesh आरती ना जैसे हरे कृष्ण.
हरे कृष्ण.
I like it.
उतना तो है.
That will purify them.
हाँ सही बात.
उतना तो करते हैं हम लोग.
हरे कृष्णा.
Okay, so that's
हरे
how.
राम बोलो.
Because that is the actual mantra ना. वो वैदिक मंत्र वही है हरे राम पहले. So all these sages, they are really working hard, trying to pacify this Vena in different ways. Tasmim stushte kim aprapyam jagatam ishwareshware lokasapalaye tasmai pranti balimadrita.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped by the great controllers of universal affairs. When he is satisfied, nothing is impossible to achieve. For this reason, all demigods, presiding deities of different planets, as well as inhabitants of their planets, take great pleasure in offering all kinds of paraphernalia for his worship.
When the Lord is satisfied, what is remaining to be achieved? Yes, tasmin tushte kim aprapyam. There is nothing remaining to achieve in this world. Jagatam, Ishwareshware, he is the controller of all the controllers. Ishwara. And for this reason, etasmai, for this reason, Loka Sapala, all the demigods and the inhabitants of various planets, Haranti Balimadrita. They take pleasure in offering paraphernalia for his worship. By worshipping the Lord only, they get everything. By practicing devotional service, one gets everything. Nothing else remains to be achieved for a devotee. Yat karmabhir, yat tapasa, jnana vairagyashchayat yogena dana dharmena shreyobhiritareerapi sarvam madbhakti yogena madbhakto labhate anjasa. Whatever result one achieves by practicing karma, dana, कर्मभिर तपस्या ज्ञान वैराग्य योग दान धर्म इतरय बाकी जो भी है, my devotee gets everything. मद भक्ति योगे ना मद भक्तो लभते अंजसा. अंजसा means very common word. अंजसा बहुत बार आता है नहीं. Quickly. अंजसा easily. Quickly नहीं, easily. Shipram is quickly. अंजसा is easily.
आसानी से.
You want heaven, you will get heaven. You want liberation, you will get liberation. You want to come to my abode, you will come to my abode. Swarga apavarga mad dham. Yasmin tushte jagat tushtam. Prabhupada quotes that. When the Lord is satisfied, everyone is benefited. Prabhupada writes, all Vedic civilization is summarized in this verse. Prabhupada is writing this many times, summarized. Everything is summarized here. All living entities have to satisfy the Supreme Lord. That is a summary. That is a Vedic civilization. Yasmin tushte jagat tushtam. Because the Lord is supplying everything. He is supplying all the necessities of life. Human society has artificially created a type of civilization which makes one forgetful of his relation with the Lord. Andhayathandi upaniyaman. So we have made a civilization where it is very, very difficult to even recognize that Krishna is the center of my life, because so much advancement is done and people have this artificial sense of controllership, that I can control so many things. Sitting at one place, I can control my AC, my washing machine, my fridge, my door, everything. But only thing I cannot control my children and my wife. बस उतना ही बचा है. That is how it is. My mind तो है ही. So that's how it is. But that, because the tendency to control is so much, if I cannot control some person, then it creates anxiety and frustration. सब कुछ कंट्रोल है, ये नहीं कंट्रोल हो रहा है, ऐसे कैसे हो रहा है? That is a problem. That's why relationships are going on a toss. Because controllership mentality is increased now. Sitting at one place, one can control anything and everything. So he wants to control relationships also. So that is how the modern civilization is destroying all these things. Dependence on the Lord. So generally people in this world, either they are on the money-making road or they are on the man-making road. Man-making road means how to become a human being. But that is very rarely followed. People are only after how to enjoy better. And Prabhupada would tell the story how materialistic civilization, it just destroys us. Prabhupada tells the story of a small boy. He had a typhoid and he was told, mother tells Baba isko fried kuch nahi dena hai. So she is going one day out for some work. She tells the sister, take care of your brother, don't give anything fried, I'm coming in some time. So brother starts pleading, you don't love me, you love me na, please give me pakoda. So she serves pakoda, she cooks, feeling that, oh, I am loving my brother, I am caring. But in the result, what happened? He became more diseased. So that's how materialistic things, they are more dangerous for a spirit soul. They inflame our material desires more. So instead of getting purified of our materialistic mentality, one gets more and more entangled. Prabhupada writes, in order to rectify this world situation, all people should be trained in Krishna consciousness. The state should also see that people are engaged in satisfying the Supreme Lord. This is the primary duty. Primary duty is not to, take care of all the worldly things. Road kaisa banna hai aur ye kaisa banna hai, no. How to reduce the material fever. Okay, next verse. Translation.
In accordance to Varnashram system, if Prabhupada all one man one ashram, as per that, they want to be getting trained. They will train as per Varna and ashram.
According to their natural propensities. Ideal varnashram is not possible many times, most of the times, but everybody has their nature, use their nature to serve Krishna. That is Devi Varnashram, which is promoted by Srila Prabhupada many times. The Prabhupada told that actual Varnashram system is very difficult now, because there is so much of mixing, nobody knows who is a Brahmana, who is a Kshatriya. So the Devi Varnashram is possible, keeping Krishna in center and trying to do whatever we can to serve the Lord. Next verse, translation.
Dear King, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with the predominating deities, is the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices in all planets. The Supreme Lord is the sum total of the three Vedas, the owner of everything, and the ultimate goal of austerity. Therefore, your countrymen should engage in performing various sacrifices for your elevation. Indeed, you should always direct them towards the offering of sacrifices.
So they are describing some qualities of the Lord and ultimately how he will be benefited. They say for your elevation, you should instruct them, you should train them. Because ultimately, they know that he is a sinful person. He will be interested only in himself. So for your elevation, Lord is Yagya Sangraham. He is the enjoyer of the results of sacrifices. Traimayam, Drabyamayam, Tapomayam. So please direct your citizens to worship the Lord. And when you worship the Lord, the demigods will be satisfied. Next verse translation.
So, really, why he is called three Vedas here? There are four Vedas, no?
So it was described that there are three Vedas. Then they were made four. As I've heard some
Rigveda,
things.
Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda.
I've heard a little bit. I don't recollect. Anyone remembers?
Yes, later on the
हाँ
Once you send the group, I send it.
हाँ three Vedas ही बोलते हैं हमेशा.
Even
त्रैगुण्या विषया वेदा निस्त्रय ना वो तो तीन गुणों का है. But three Vedas भी है. There is some explanation of this. I am not remembering now.
जो वैद्यों के वो चैप्टर है ना उसमें है वो
तो उसमें भी है ना three Vedas वाला. पहले तीन था फिर शायद कुछ तो और
सिंप्लीफाई करने के लिए
हाँ कुछ तो है सही.
बताइए वापस शेयर कीजिए.
When all the brahmanas engage in performing sacrifices in your kingdom, all the demigods who are plenary extensions of the Lord will be very much satisfied by their activities and will give you your desired result. Therefore, O hero, do not stop the sacrificial performance. If you stop them, you will disrespect the demigods.
So they are saying you are a hero. Don't act like villain. Don't disrespect the devatas. Don't stop sacrifices. It is for your benefit. But Vena, he was so arrogant. इतना अच्छा अच्छा ही बोले हैं आपके भलाई के लिए आपके भले के लिए and he is so arrogant. He says you are speaking childish words. Vena uvacha बालिशा बतयूयं वा अधर्मे धर्ममानिनः निवृत्तिदं पतिं हित्वा चारं पतिम् उपासते. Strongly he is chastising them. Yeah.
King Mena replied, you are not at all experienced. It is very much regrettable that you are maintaining something which is not religious and accepting it as religious. Indeed, I think you are giving up your real husband who maintains you and are searching after some paramount.
He's saying, I am king. I am the supreme. So you are telling me to not worship. You are telling me to worship somebody else. You are supposed to worship me. Chakravarti Thakur writes, I am your maintainer. If I forbid you to pluck fruits and roots today, you will immediately die. That's how he is telling very strongly. So when he wanted to control the Lord, he wanted to control everybody. But he was like a king is like a person who has danda, in his hand, punishing rod. But if that punishing rod is given to control the citizens, to teach them, but if he starts beating people with that punishing rod unnecessarily, then he is supposed to be punished. So Vena, he didn't want any good guidance. So therefore now he is behaving in such a wrong way and he will be punished for sure. So this lording over mentality is there everywhere in this world, and Vena is like the epitome of that. We want to lord over. We don't want to serve the Lord. We don't want to follow the saintly people. So Vena is thinking, I am maintaining these brahmanas. And he didn't realize that Brahmanas have given him long life. Brahmanas, and it is Krishna who is giving all the energy. So that's how Vena didn't realize that all these powers, they are given by the Brahmanas and they are supposed to serve the Brahmanas. With every leadership position comes responsibility. With every post, every privilege comes a responsibility. But tendency is when the post is given, we forget the responsibility. So that is what is happening here. So it is just like if the PM, Prime Minister, he is given a responsible post. He has some privileges, but he can't sell the parliament to some other person. So that is what Vena is doing here. He is given responsibility to rule citizens on behalf of King, behalf of the Supreme Lord, and he is saying, you are behaving like prostitutes. You are not worshipping me, and you are telling me, instructing me. क्या बोलते हैं? Next verse में he says, अवजानन्ति अमी मूढ़ा. अवजानन्ति माम मूढ़ा बोलते हैं ना भगवान. अवजानन्त्यमी मूढ़ा नृपरूपेण ईश्वरम नानुविन्दति ते भद्रम इहलोके परत्र च. अरे ये लाइफ दूसरे लाइफ में कुछ भला नहीं होगा मेरी पूजा नहीं करोगे. Translation.
Those who out of gross ignorance do not worship the king, who is actually the supreme personality of Godhead, experience happiness neither in this world nor in the world after.
Arrogance and ignorance का height है ये. Like, that's how arrogance is.
What does Krishna say? The Bhagavad Gita.
Same अपने लिए बोल रहे हो. ओ जानन्ति मामूढ़ा मानुषम तन्माश्रितम परम भावम अजानन्तो. वो ये बोल रहे हैं नानो विन्दति. मेरा पूजा नहीं कर रहे हो तुम लोग. You will be destroyed. Next verse he says, अरे बाबा, you are worshipping devatas. You know who are they? They are my servants. को यज्ञ पुरुषो नामो यो यत्र वो भक्तिरीदृशी भर्तृ स्नेह विदुराणाम यथाचारे कुयोषिता. बार बार यही बोल रहे हो, यथाचारे कुयोषिता.
You are so much devoted to the demigods, but who are they? Indeed, your affection for these demigods is exactly like the affection of an unjust woman who neglects her married life and gives all attention to her paramour.
And next verse he says, hey, who is this Vishnu, Brahma, Indra, Chandra? Translation for you.
Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Indra, Vayu, the master of air, Yam, and the superintendent of death, the sun god, the director of rainfall, Kuvera, the treasurer, the moon god, the predominating deity of the earth, Agni, the fire god, Varun, the lord of waters, and all others who are great and competent to bestow benediction or to curse, all abide in the body of the king. For this reason, the king is known as the reservoir of all demigods, who are simply parts and parcels of the king's body.
देखो, सर्व देव मयो नृपा. Amazing thing is, it is not false. Whatever Vena is saying is true, but it is false also. So king is called as Naradeva, but Vena is royally misusing the statement. So king is.
It may be applicable to Parishit Maharaj.
King is Naradeva, that means he is connected to Deva. And he will connect all the Naras to Deva also. But he is himself cut off from Krishna. What type of Naradev he is? So Naradev represents Dev. But ye bol rahe mai Dev hu. That's the problem. So if the manager, he pushes the subordinates and he says, I am the supreme, मेरे ऊपर वाला कोई नहीं है, मैं ही सब कुछ हूं, मेरी पूजा करो. That is arrogance. So that is what he is doing here.
वो वेदा से मिल गया. अथर्ववेद is not considered.
कहाँ पे है?
It's a material. ऐसे
ChatGPT को नहीं पूछे ना.
अथर्ववेदा is material things and So many things are from other three Vedas
Okay.
contained in that. And it is also describing magic and charms and all. So Atharva Veda is not considered.
Ayurveda से कम ना
Yeah, Ayurveda कुछ नहीं आता
So that is also part of it.
तो यहाँ पे आयुर्वेदिक डॉक्टर नहीं बैठे हैं कोई. Okay, anyways. So this tendency of being worshipped, it is epitome here is Vena, but everyone has this tendency to a bigger or a smaller degree to be worshipped, to be adored by the juniors. You know, if a devotee is not mature enough, if a young bhakta doesn't call him Prabhu, hey, Prabhu नहीं बोला मेरे को यार. ये मेरे से पूरे 2 दिन बाद में आया मालूम है. So that is, you want to be exclusively adored. Some people, some devotees, prematurely, like, मेरे को ही खाली सेवा करना है और किसी को साथ सेवा नहीं करना है. You only serve me. So that is how we have to be very careful about this. We know this 6 stages of Anishchit Bhajan. In the Madhurya Kadambari, it is described. Everyone goes through these 6 stages of Anishchit Bhajan. Bhajan Kriya ke Anishchit Bhajan mein. First is Utsahamai. The waves of enthusiasm. कभी ऊपर कभी नीचे. नए डिवोटी का ऐसा रहता है, प्रभु जी आप कभी भी बोलो सेवा के लिए मैं रेडी. कभी इतना सेवा करेगा और कभी गायब. प्रभु जी कहाँ है? प्रभु जी दिख नहीं रहे हैं, महीने से गायब है. That is his wave of enthusiasm. Next is Ghana Tarala. Sometimes condensed devotion. 16 माला एक जगह बैठ के करेगा और कभी दिख ही नहीं रहा है, माला ही नहीं कर रहा है. Third is Vishaya Sangar, attachment to sense gratification is still there. He privately engages in sense gratification. Then after more purification, he goes to Vyuda Vikalpa. He's always confused how to practice bhakti. What should I do now? What should I do later? Then the fifth is Niyama Kshama. He wants to increase his standards of bhakti. He's not able to do that. 16 माला तो कर रहे हैं, थोड़ा 17वां माला कर रहे हैं, वो होता ही नहीं है. And the last is Taranga Rangini. When a devotee is known in the community as a very good devotee, very wonderful, steady devotee, gets name, fame, respect, that is very deadly, that is very dangerous. When the respect comes, one starts thinking, oh, I am such a great devotee, everybody should now worship me only. We may not say that, but unconsciously we expect that everybody should give me respect. So that is also a type of mentality.
These are not the stages, no? 6 types.
These are always there. These are always there. It is not that once you cross this Utsahamai stage, you will not experience that. Once you cross this Niyamakshama stage, you will not experience that. They are always there. But as we go ahead, the previous things they go little down. Their effect is less. मुझे तो मालूम है अपना अनिश्चित चल रहा है. मालूम नहीं. हाँ तो सारे स्टेज रहते हैं. Some stages they go down. Yes, that is an Anishchit Bhajan stage, na? Sometimes we are very enthusiastic, sometimes we are.
If the Bhajan is the stage.
Yeah.
And these are all these steps, there are all types in the Anishchit Bhajan. Exactly in one sense, not stages, na?
Yes, you can say the effect of some things, they are always there. It is not that once we cross the Utsahamai Ghanatarla stage, they are never disturbing us. Once we cross Vishaya Sangar, they will not disturb us. They will always disturb us. But the more we advance, they will disturb us less. So like that. Okay.
In case of Anartha Nivritti also is the same, na? When if you go past Anartha Nivritti, still there are some.
हाँ प्राय है ना. उनष्ट प्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यम भाग. प्राय means almost. Bhav bhakti पे भी there is some trace which still remains. So unless we are at prema, it is not completely purified. Like that. So
you have to analyze ourselves, right?
हाँ अपने आप को या दूसरों को नहीं.
ये खुद को एनालाइज करके देखना चाहिए.
But even if you don't know, it's all very different.
Yeah.
There is not a choice, Mother.
It is for our understanding that
Prabhuji told today. आपको अभी दो No, you cannot back step. अभी आगे ही चलना है. तो वही बोला भगवान ने आपको पकड़ा अभी छोड़ेंगे.
Yes. So Vena, he continues. और भी बहुत गाली देते हैं वो. तस्मान् मां कर्मभिः विप्रा यजत्वं गतमत्सरा बलिं च मह्यं हरता मत्तोऽन्यको कृभुक्मा.
Veda continued, for this reason, O Brahmanas, you should abandon your envy of me, and by your ritualistic activity, you should worship me and offer me all paraphernalia. If you are intelligent, you should know that there is no personality separate from me. You can accept the first relations.
देखो, this is the height of demanding respect. मेरी पूजा करो, मुझे ही अर्पण करो. हाँ,
उसको भगवान ही बता रहे हैं.
भगवान ही है ना, बोल तो रहे हैं मैं भगवान हूँ भाई. So this mentality is very dangerous, demanding respect. So we have to be careful all the time. It is not that नहीं मेरे में तो इतना तो बिल्कुल नहीं आएगा, इतना नहीं आएगा, but some traces can come for sure. So that's why Brahmaji asked 3 benedictions to Lord Vishnu. Anyone remembers? What are the 3 benedictions Lord asked?
I should not get illusion. Fall down from my position, or getting
Yes.
away from.
Yes. Okay. Empower me, protect me from deviation, save me from deviation, and protect me from falsity. So these are the prayers which everybody should keep on making. Empower me to serve, and if I serve nicely, I may be proud. कोई नहीं किया, मेरा मालूम है, मैं किया ये सेवा, कोई कर पाया, कोई नहीं कर पाया. देखो, I did this seva. We may not say it such grossly. We may feel like that.
That pastime has happened after this, no? Pastime before. This prayers, before this prayer only that pastime happened.
कौन सा वाक वाला?
What all that pastime that we got illusion and capture or don't know in life. More in life before.
It's during the creation, before creation.
Because Lord has that he prayed to the Lord, but that Brahma Lila he completely got illusion, na? He thought
Yes.
this first time. I think Vishnu or someone has mentioned that.
Acha.
Remember?
Okay.
Interestingly, this may have happened before that interaction with the Lord. He's seeking that protect me from these prayers, na? Definitely Lord may have given the protection.
Sir, as I remember, ये वाक के बारे में बताते हैं. वाक एपिसोड के बारे में विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर writes, this is not our current Brahma. This is some other Brahma. Because our Brahma has heard Chatushloki Bhagavatam. He cannot fall down. न भारती में अंगम ऋषोपलक्ष्यते न वै क्वचिन में मनसो मृषागति न मे ऋषिकाणि पतन्त्य सत्यते यन्मय हृदोत्कण्ठ अवतार हेतो हरि. My mind never goes towards wrong things. My words, they never go wrong. My senses never go to sense gratification. Why? I have caught hold of the lotus feet of the Lord with great zeal. Great zeal. So that's how here Veda is demanding. He is deviating. He has deviated only completely.
How to remain composed at time for the sages?
They were not composed. Oh, pura full on.
So they are predicted before only.
तो सोचिए गए तो नहीं मानेगा तो फिर हरी बोल करके आएंगे इसके हम लोग.
They are giving just chance to avoid sins.
बोलेगा क्यों गंदा करना है हाथ, ठीक है भाई, मान जाएगा तो अच्छा है. So this deviation is so very subtle in the life of a devotee. It's like somebody is preaching and then late nights are happening and then they may think abhi to late night ho raha hai, kal suba mangal aarti nahi utenge. If somebody is not attending the practices of bhakti regularly, gradually we become weak and gradually we become deviated. We have to be really careful. We should not be rigid and fanatic on one side, and one should not get diluted completely. So we have to preserve the sanctity of our Krishna consciousness and keep on preaching. और इतना सब सुन के तो सेजेस तो एकदम आग बबूला हो गए. Translation, next verse.
The great sages Maitreya continued, thus the king who became unintelligent due to his sinful life and deviations from the right path became actually benefit of all good fortune. He could not accept the requests of great sages, which the sages put before him with great respect, and therefore he was condemned.
So nice, so nicely, respectfully, they spoke to say this Vena, but he completely disobeyed and insulted them. So Prabhupada writes, as soon as one disobeys authority, as soon as one disobeys authority, he immediately becomes sinful and loses his good fortune. Even if the authority is wrong, we should be careful not to insult that authority. We may represent our opinions, but it should be done in very, very respectful way. And if the authority is, even if the authority is wrong, just by following, submitting to the authority, whatever happens to authority, that is his, between him and Krishna, but our bhakti will continue. So that is very, very important. If nothing can be done, okay, I'll be obeying, I'll be obedient. The authority, what happens to him, that is between him and Krishna. But our bhakti will be protected because we have submitted to the principle of authority.
If the authority is grossly wrong, then
We can, of course, do whatever is needful. Approach somebody who can help them, who can help the authority, who can talk to. But if he's the ultimate authority here, तब क्या करेंगे आप? Yeah. Prabhupada writes, king was so puffed up and impudent that he dared disrespect the saintly people, and this brought him ruination. Next verse, translation.
My dear Vidura, all good fortune unto you. The foolish king, who thought himself very learned, thus insulted the great sages, and the sages, being broken-hearted by the king's words, became very angry at him.
Very angry, and immediately kill him. Hanyatam esha papa prakriti darunaha जीवन जगत सावाशु कुरुते भस्मसा ध्रुवम.
The great saintly sages immediately cried, kill him, kill him. He is the most dreadful, sinful person. If he lived, he would certainly turn the whole world into ashes. No time.
The general conception of sages, of people about sages, they are very peaceful, shant, sober, गुस्सा नहीं करते हैं. Prabhupada was not that type of, in Pandal program once, somebody started challenging in India, 10,000 people are there, and somebody started speaking Mayavad, and Prabhupada is shouting at him in public. And some people are astonished, कैसे गुरु हैं आपके? ऐसा कोई होता है साधु? So Prabhupada was very angry if somebody would speak Mayavad. One time, Prabhupada was giving a Pandal program, and then he started doing kirtan. Some of the disciples, lady disciples, they were dancing on the stage, and some, people, they started coming near the stage. They wanted to touch the feet of these ladies. Prabhupada saw all this. He was playing kartal, and in between saw, and he threw kartal at those people, and it hit one of the person. Others ran away, and he again took another kartal and continued kirtan. So Prabhupada was not that type of saint ki bhai thik hai, shanti, no fighting, no shouting. So these sages, they are showing if something is wrong, it has to be handled properly. Kill him. So that's how they are shouting. Okay. Prabhupada writes, saintly people are generally very kind, but they are not unhappy when a serpent or scorpion is killed. Modet sadhurapi vrishchika sarpa hatya. Prabhupada quoted that, when his spiritual master Sadhu told that kill this snake, he was surprised. How can a sadhu tell to kill? And he read that verse. So that's how I should be very careful to avoid all this atheistic and sinful mentalities. Chanakya Pandit says a very wonderful subhashit, wonderful verse. He says, Tyajatyekam kulasyarte gramasyarte kulam tyajet kulam janapadasyarte atmartam prithvim tyajet. Tyajatyekam, for the sake of family, one person should be sacrificed. Gramasyarte kulam tyajet, to protect one village, one family can be sacrificed. Gramam Janapadasyarte, to protect a town, a village can be sacrificed. And to protect ourselves, that means soul, entire world can be given up. The sages, they are ready to kill the king to serve the society, to protect the society. Prabhupada writes, we can appreciate the extent to which the saintly persons actually controlled the king. If the king or the government becomes demoniac, it is duty of a saintly person to upset the government and replace it with the deserving persons. ये पुराने जमाने की बात है, आज नहीं हो सकता है, where those people had that power. So one has to be really careful to keep the standard principles always prominent. Knowledge should control power, not the other way. Power should not control knowledge. If power is controlling knowledge, then it is not a good situation. Power should be guided by wisdom. That's how, because now in today's day and age, money rules the world. So one time, one senior devotee went to a temple, and he was told, and he spoke something about demigods. So after the class, one person came and said, Prabhuji, please don't speak so heavily about demigods here. We have many donors who are worshippers of Durga and Shiva and Sai Baba. So we should not, speak so hard, strongly. So that's how, when the focus is on, we want some, donors. Then ultimately, of course, we can present it in a palatable way. But if the focus नहीं ये सब बोलियो मत, ये लोग चले जाएंगे, हमारा donation चला जाएगा. So then it is not a good way. So wisdom should control money and manpower, not the other way around. Brahmana should not be controlled by king. That's why in the previous times there are two types of Brahmanas. There are two types of sages. City sages and forest sages. The city sages, they would stay in city. They were taken care by the kings. The forest sages, they were just living on the nature, depending on the forest. They were not controlled by kings. They had no, the kings had no control over these sages. But the city sages, they were dependent on the king. If the king says, okay, you find this verse from the scriptures which tells this, I want to do this yajna. And they would find that, because जैसे आजकल प्रभुपाद ने इसके बारे में क्या बोला है, ढूंढ के निकालो, कहीं ना कहीं से तो स्टेटमेंट मिल ही जाएगा प्रभुपाद का. So that's how it is very, very, risky.
He used to write his.
Yeah, Prabhupada said he was the last Brahmana, Chanakya. He never depended on the king. He would go and beg. That's how it is. Okay, so sages, they continue. Nayam arhatya sadvritto naradeva varasanam yodhyagyapatim vishnum vinandatyanapatravaha.
The saintly sages continue. This impious, impudent man does not deserve to sit on the throne at all. He is so shameless that he even dared insult the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu.
So devotees, they can't tolerate the Lord being blasphemed, the devotees being blasphemed. A devotee is generally very meek and humble, reluctant to pick quarrel, but he becomes fiery if devotee and the devotee of and Lord Vishnu is insulted. The famous story of Parvati, Sati. She was ready to kill Daksha. She said, if I'll kill Daksha, people will say Lord Shiva sent his wife and killed Daksha. So devotee can never tolerate insults. Ko vainam parichakshita menam ekam rite shubham praptai drisham aishwaryam anugraha bhajanaha.
But for King Vena, who is simply inauspicious, who would blaspheme the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose mercy one is awarded all kinds of fortune and opulence.
Only Vena can do this. Nobody else can do such a great inauspicious thing. The Lord brings fortune in everyone's lives, and he is behaving against the Lord. As Dwarkavasis and Krishna enters, they offer a beautiful prayer. They say, "Oh my Lord, because we are following your footsteps, we are fortunate. Bhavaya nastvam bhavavishva bhavan tvameva mata suritpatim pita tvam sadgururna paramam cha daivatam yasyanu kritino babhuvima." You are our father, you are our mother, you are our worshipable Lord. Anuvritya, because we are worshipping and following you, kritino babhuvima, we have become fortunate. So worshipping the Lord brings all the fortune, all the opulence, and he is disobeying and insulting the Lord. He will be ruined. Itham vyavasita hantum rishayo rudhaman manyavaha vijagnor hunkritayirvenam Adam Achyutanindaya.
If sages that manifesting their covert anger immediately set to kill the king. King Vena was already as good as a dead due to his blasphemy against the Supreme Person of Godhead. Thus, without using any weapons, he just killed the King Vena simply by high sounding words.
बोला तो मर गया. Sages. That is the power of sound vibration. We don't know what type of power we are handling. We don't know this Hare Krishna mantra ka power kya hai. We are not doing it properly. So words have sound has lots of power. Just chanted Hunkar and they killed Vena. Versus he was already dead because he blasphemed the Lord. Anybody who is separated from the Lord is considered dead. Yes, like Prabhupada was once on a morning walk and he saw a branch fallen on the ground. Prabhupada said, "Look at that. Do you know? Can you see this? This is very important, significant." So devotees are like, "Kya hai?" So Prabhupada would come out with such wonderful lessons. He says, this means the branch is separated from the root. That's why it has become lifeless. It has become separated from the main body. So if the society is separated from the Lord, it is like this dead branch, dead civilization. So anyone who is not following Krishna, blasphemes the Lord, he is like dead body. वो एक अच्छा वर्स है ना, उसमें बोलते हैं कि मंडनम लोकरंजनम भगवद भक्ति हीनस्य जाति शास्त्रम जप तप प्राणस्येव देहस्य मंडलम लोकरंजनम. If somebody is not practicing devotional service, Bhagavad Bhakti Hina, whatever jati, shastra, jap, tap, whatever you do, it is of no use. It is like decorating the dead body. So now they all have killed. Now mother came to know Sunitha. So जैसा भी बेटा हो, फिर भी मेरा बेटा है. When Hiranyaksha died, Diti was crying. She never said, "Arey, bichara kitna अच्छा हुआ मर गया." No. Next was translation.
Hare Krishna. After all the sages returned to their respective hermitages, The mother of King Vena, Sunitha, became very much aggrieved because of her son's death. She decided to preserve the dead body of her son by the application of certain ingredients and by chanting mantras, mantra yogena, Hare Krishna.
So she wanted to preserve the dead body of her son. She was so attached to her son. So didn't allow her to, just burn the body. She didn't allow them to burn. She was protecting. So now, because the king is dead, so the dacoits and the thieves who were little subdued, now they became more active. Next verse translation.
Once upon a time, the same saintly person, after taking their bath in the river Saraswati, began to perform their daily duties by offering oblation into the sacrificial fires. After this, sitting on the bank of the river, they began to talk about the transcendental person and his pastimes.
So after killing, they didn't keep on discussing about Vena. अच्छा हुआ कैसे मार दिया उसको कितना परेशान कर रहा था. They were not fanatic followers that we don't care about the society. At the same time, they knew their line, when to draw a line. So as a devotee, we should know when to draw a line between the material news and spiritual talks. How much is too much for us? Otherwise, in the name of knowing something about the outside world, we may get too much engrossed in that. So sages didn't spend so much time discussing about Veda. They were absorbed in Hari Katha. They began to talk about the pastimes of the Lord. Then, after some days, what happened in the society? Translation. Next.
In those days,
Hare Krishna.
In those days, there were various disturbances in the country that were creating a panic in the society. Therefore, all the saints began to talk amongst themselves. Since the king is dead and there is no protector in the world, misfortune may befall the people in general on account of rogues and thieves.
So now, because they were powerful enough, they had to discuss these things. They didn't neglect the welfare of the world in the name of Harikatha. They were not saying, Arey, why we should be disturbed in our Harikatha? Let the world go to hell. We will get liberated. No. Because they had great responsibility, they started discussing how to solve this problem again now. Because they were seeing the storm raising. Prabhupada writes, whenever there is a disturbance in the state, the property and the lives of citizens become unsafe. This is caused by uprising of thieves and rogues. Now, because king is dead, Vena is dead, so all the thieves and rogues, they came out, they started creating havoc in the society. And then Prabhupada writes, that was the concern of these sages. In this age of Kali, everything is disturbed. So, हमको भी अपने हाथ में वेपन्स लेना चाहिए. क्या करना चाहिए अपने को? हरेर नाम एव केवलम. कलोस क्या है? संगोपांगास्त्र पार्षद. That is a weapon we can take. We cannot take all the other weapons. So as the sages were discussing this, they are seeing storm rising. Dust storm. Translation next verse.
when the great sages were carrying on their discussion in this way, they saw a dust storm arising from all directions. This storm was caused by the running of thieves and rogues who were engaged in plundering the citizens.
Next.
Causing the dust storm, simply persons could understand that there were a great deal of irregularities due to the death of King Vena. Without government, the state was devoid of law and order. And consequently, there was a great uprising of murderers, thieves, and rogues who were plundering the riches of the people in general. Although the great sages could subdue the disturbance by their powers, just as they could kill the king, they considered improper on their part also. So they did not attempt to stop this.
This is also very important. They didn't say now we'll handle this also. No, they knew when to intervene. So that is maturity. That is mature, saintly leadership. When to intervene and when to give guidance. When to take the laws in hand and when to take some steps which will lead to a peaceful situation. So now they are not destroying the rogues and thieves. They didn't take the role of Kshatriya here. Prabhupada writes. The sages killed men out of emergency, but they did not choose to take part in government in order to subdue the uprising thieves. It is not the duty of Brahmanas to kill, although sometimes they do so in emergency. They could kill all the rogues by their mantras, but they thought it is duty of Kshatriya. So it is not a great emergency. So they didn't take the law in hand. They didn't kill all these. So they were thinking, they were not indifferent. They were not thinking, hey, why should we protect others? We have power, we'll protect ourselves. Let the thieves loot the other, all the citizens. No. They had to do something. Next verse. Brahmana samdrika shanto. Deenanam samupekshakaha.
दीनानां
Pravate
समुपेक्षकः
brahma tasyapi. Bhinna
प्रवर्तयेब्रह्मतस्यापि
bhandat payo yatha.
भिन्नं माण्डात्पयो यथा. The great sages began to think that although a Brahmana is peaceful and impartial because he is equal to everyone, it is still not his duty to neglect poor humans. By such neglect, a Brahmana's spiritual power diminishes, just as water kept in a cracked pot leaks out. Hare Krishna.
So these Brahmanas, they are very, very intelligent. They knew when to intervene. They knew what is their apat dharma. Everybody has their nitya dharma, naimittika dharma, and there is something called as apat dharma. What is apat dharma? When there is emergency. That apat dharma should not become nitya dharma. Just like in the case of Bharat Maharaj. His apat dharma was he had to protect their deer. But that apat dharma became his nitya dharma. He started spending all the time with that deer. So we should be very careful. Our emergency duty should not become our routine duty. Otherwise it will deviate us. In the COVID times, I can tell my experience when I was in temple and taking care of the devotees. I was taking care of the health. So as a service, I had to see the scores. COVID cases कितना हो रहा है रोज, बढ़ रहा है, कम हो रहा है, क्या हो रहा है, what is the situation outside. So every day I had to see. मोबाइल पे देखते हैं अभी क्या हो रहा है, क्या हो रहा है, क्या हो रहा है. बट अभी कोविड का केसेस देख रहे हैं तो नीचे और न्यूज भी आ रहा है. So slowly I would see one कुछ कोविड का न्यूज, बीच में एक और न्यूज आ गया कुछ तो. So वो अच्छा वो एक और न्यूज है, एक और तो slowly I started spending more time in all these news related to COVID and something extra. So my apat dharma started, making me deviated. So that's how if one is not careful, then deviation is very, very gradual. Suddenly nothing happens in the life of a bhakta. It is like a termite eating the wood. उसे ऐसा आवाज आएगा, आवाज ही आ रहा है खाली. If you're not careful, then outside सब फर्स्ट क्लास दिखेगा, अंदर से खोखला है. And one day the building will collapse. प्रभु जी तो अच्छे थे, प्रभु जी तो एकदम अच्छे डिवोटी थे, कहाँ गए आजकल, दिख नहीं रहे हैं. Because अंदर से धीरे धीरे वो खोखले हो गए हैं. So that's how this emergency duty are very, very risky. If we are not careful about them, then we'll be deviated for sure. So these Brahmanas, they are very careful not to engage in that emergency duty. ये अपना emergency duty नहीं है अभी बाबा. So Brahmanas, they were Samdrik, Shant. They were peaceful. When the mind is peaceful, one can discriminate. A Sattvaguni mind can discriminate what is good and what is bad, what is wrong. So because these Brahmanas, they were Samdrik, Shant, learned, they could understand, now I have to stop this. Otherwise, it was like normal. ठीक है, हमें न्यूज देख लिया तो क्या फर्क पड़ गया. It was not, nothing was happening with my devotional service as such. 4 नियम तो पालन हो ही रहा है, 16 माला हो ही रहा है, भागवतम हो ही रहा है. मतलब कोविड में इतना भागवतम पढ़ लिया और बोल दिया कि जितना 10 साल में नहीं पढ़ा. But still, it is like a very mild deviation. I'm spending some time which is not needed. 2 मिनट ही सही, 5 मिनट से. I was not spending much time. 2-5 मिनट ज्यादा से ज्यादा एक्स्ट्रा हो गया होगा. But the tendency enters. And then gradually we start justifying also. So that is how very, very important. Shravate Brahma tasyapi, by such neglect. He says, Bhinna bhandat payo yatha. Very important. If one is not peaceful and if one does not serve society, serve the devotees, then gradually one's spiritual power diminishes. If one is not serving according to one's capacity, then that capacity reduces. And Prabhupada writes in one purport, when one serves, then empowerment is given. So we have some potential to serve devotees. If we are not using that potential will go down. And if we are using that potential, it will grow. Just like water leaks from a cracked pot. Slowly it will go down. पता भी नहीं चलेगा कब कम हो गया. So Prabhupada writes.
To avoid the tendencies of deviation.
Sorry?
To avoid the deviations tendencies. Like sometimes you start justifying, your own mind start justifying.
So I caught myself ना कि भाई मेरा तो
because of your shastric power and your association in ashram, you could analyze that. So sometimes people you're not able to analyze ashram.
Yeah, it depends on what you do in your peaceful times, because such deviations are very silent.
Yeah.
So we have to be very honest with ourselves in our peaceful times. If we are honestly practicing, praying, reading, then Krishna will inspire us. कि भाई क्या कर रहा है?
But someone has to like in your
such deviations are very gradual and silent. Nobody will come to know कि भाई मैं न्यूज देख रहा हूँ तो कौन देखने वाला है मेरे को, मैं न्यूज देख रहा हूँ मोबाइल पे कि क्या कर रहा हूँ. And especially after spending some years in ashram, कौन बोलेगा मेरे को कि भाई आप क्या देख रहे हैं, कोई पूछेगा भी नहीं. So we have to be ourselves very careful. अगर आपको इतना विश्वास नहीं है तो पेरेंटल केयर लगाओ, फिर मोबाइल पेरेंटल ऐप लगाओ.
क्या रहता है उसमें?
Oh, okay. There are some apps, if some devotees, they have a habit of browsing too much, and because of their previous conditionings, they would go to some other sites, some wrong things, and now they have come to Bhakti. But their conditionings are so that they are forced to do that. Unconsciously, udhar hi chala jata hai man. So on the phone, there is an app. You can put that app and you can put somebody as your parent. So if you are going on that site, that person will come to know that you have browsed this site. So that's parental control. That is very common nowadays in the digital world. आप लोग नहीं मालूम? Oh really? This is very, very common app. In your mobile also, everyone's mobile it is there. It is there, and you can make higher version also. Every mobile has a digital well-being. आपके इसमें रहेगा, सब में रहता है वो by default, but nobody uses it. हाँ, चिल्ड्रन के लिए तो डाल के रखते हैं, सब पेरेंट्स डालते हैं. हाँ, वो लोग भी सब उस्ताद हैं. So that's how you can control your mobile कि भाई I'll put a app and ये app पे कितना मेरे को time spend करना, I'll put a time. And after that time, it will be locked. And if I have to reopen it, you can tell the password of that app to somebody. तो उसको ही मालूम है वो पासवर्ड क्या है, वही डालेगा आपके मोबाइल में पासवर्ड.
Even there are paid apps, paid versions of this, and which you take and you can block the sites also.
Yes.
But now today's era, even if I have about the end of blocking sites, they crack that also. Means
करने वाले तो खुराफात
the
कुछ भी कर
browsers
सकते
are
हैं.
there are different
Yeah.
browsers. Different browsers they look at, and that browser doesn't cover up this.
Correct. Yes. So ultimately, forceful is like beginning stages. After 25 साल के बाद भी आपको फोर्स लग रहा है, मतलब गड़बड़ है कुछ तो. We need to be ourselves, our police.
At least I think we can every moment pray Krishna.
Okay.
मैंने इसमें स्क्रीन टाइम होता है कितना घंटा
आता है, वो तो सब में आता है. Screen time, so that is a normal thing. You can put a higher version of that app also. So these Brahmanas, they were very, very devoted to their sadhana. At the same time, they were not neglecting Jivadaya. So we have Vaishnava Seva, Namuruchi, Jivadaya. So there should be a balance between Namuruchi and Jivadaya. In the name of Jivadaya, one should not compromise the basic sadhana. One should not compromise one's connection with the Lord. Because over a period of time, if we are not spending sufficient time personally connecting with the Lord, then one becomes very shallow in his relationship with the Lord. The shallow chanting of 16 rounds will not help after certain years in bhakti. 16 mala ho gaya. That is the basic which any bhakta does. But after many years, one has to be very, very consciously prayerful, intensely prayerful, to develop connection with the Lord, praying. Then only it will come.
In this case, first they appointed Vena because there were disturbances and they had no choice. And then they killed. So they took that as a responsibility.
It was emergency.
Second emergency. And then again, second thing they tried, again they had to do that. That was the right thing to do. Now the rogues and the storm is coming up. Now they know that what is going on. And they also know that there is no Kshatriya.
Yeah.
Right? So now why they're keeping silent?
No, they're not keeping silent. They'll find some Brahminical way to handle this problem. They'll not take a Kshatriya way of killing.
They do that, but here they say there is something here.
If they remain silent, then there is a problem. That's why
They
did not.
Thus, they didn't attempt to stop the disturbance.
In the way they had done earlier, by killing the rogues. They didn't stop the disturbance by killing the thieves and the rogues, but they will do something in a Brahminical way. So that is how they are now thinking. We cannot just do a same Kshatriya thing again.
Even in Vishwamitra's Yajna, they call Prabhu Ram.
Vishwamitra went to call.
As powerful to do that. But he says
they didn't want to take
it.
It was not the duty of a Brahmana to do that. So therefore, एक बार कर दिया emergency था, दूसरी बार क्यों करना है? Because now I'll use some Brahminical power. Yes. That is also there. They killed. So they are compromising, they are sacrificing their power. So why we should do that again? That's why they are not doing that. So Prabhupada writes, Brahmanas are mostly devotees. They are generally unaware of the happenings within the material world. Dhyan rakhiye. They are generally unaware. Even if people tell us, itna bhi nahi malum, you should be happy ki nahi malum hai. Even in the devotee community, I have faced this. In the ashram, some devotees, they, Prabhuji, ye nahi malum aapko? Nahi malum, to nahi malum. I am happy about that. Because they are always busy in their activities for spiritual advancement. Generally, they are unaware. Some devotees are aware of something about everything of this world. सब कुछ थोड़ा थोड़ा मालूम रहता है उनको. जनरल नॉलेज इतना रहता है ना, यू आस्क देम एनीथिंग ऑन एनी टॉपिक, दे विल हैव समथिंग टू से. भागवतम नहीं प्रजी, भागवतम पढ़ने का टाइम किधर, बाकियों के लिए पक्का टाइम मिलता है. भागवत सीसी नहीं नहीं नहीं, उसके लिए कहाँ टाइम है. Nonetheless, when there is a calamity in human society, they cannot remain impartial. Generally, not interested. Calamity है, we will work, we will do something. ऐसा नहीं कि बगल में बम फूट रहा है, हमको क्या करना है. Know what to do now. That is our responsibility to do something. If they do not do something to relieve the distress of conditions of human society, it is said that due to such neglect, their spiritual knowledge diminishes. So if we are not doing anything according to our power, not that I will also become Kshatriya. No, what is in my power? My power is, okay, now people are really distressed, I'll give them solace. I'll give them comfort. If I can do something other than that, I'll do that. But Kshatriya, mera nahi nature. Why should I take weapons in my hand? So we should do whatever is in our power. That is very important. Almost all the sages go to Himalayas for their personal benefit. Prabhupada quotes this. Naivod vijay paraduratya virya Naivod vijay paraduratya vaitaranya tvatviregaya namaha amritamagna tripta Shochetato vimukha sendriyarte maya sukhaya bharamutvahato vimudhan. Prahlad Maharaj says, I am distressed seeing the situation of people of this world. They are suffering. There are some sages who just remain in seclusion, practicing their own bhajan. I cannot be like that. And Prabhupada quotes, in some place, Prabhupada quotes about Vasudev Datta. He asked Mahaprabhu, give all the sins of all the people of this world, all the living entities of the world. Let them go to Vaikuntha, I'll go to hell. So that is a Vaishnava. Okay, next verse, translation. Now, what they did, 42 to 46. They are doing something which is in their hand. Translation.
The sages decided that the descendants of the family of the saintly king Anga should not be stopped, for in this family the semen was very powerful and the children were prone to become devotees of the Lord.
So they knew, hey, Dhruv Maharaj ka dynasty hai, Swayambhu Manu ka dynasty hai. The dynasty is very powerful. Just because one person is, born sinful, that doesn't mean the entire dynasty is corrupted, contaminated. Amogha Virya. The word used here is Amogha Virya. This dynasty has created great saintly kings. We should do something. And Anga Maharaj was personally very pure, great devotee of the Lord. So because he was associating with Sunita, his semen became contaminated. So the sages, they decided to take action. Next verse.
After making a decision, the saintly persons and sages churned the thighs of dead body of King Vena with great force, and according to the specific method, as a result of this churning, a dwarf-like person was born from King Vena's body. Hare Krishna.
So first they brought out the sinful part of Vena by churning the thighs of this Vena. So Prabhupada writes, there was a specific method, that a person was born by churning of thighs of Vena proves that spirit soul is individual and separate from the body. So anyways, Prabhupada writes about some technical details, how soul is eternal. Prabhupada writes in the last few lines of the purport. When the body of the person named Bahuka came out of the body of Vena, it was not really very astonishing. It was simply a question of knowing how to do it. Somebody may question, how can a person be born of thighs? There was a process, and they knew the process. So this Bahuka, he was very black complexioned person because he represented all the sins of Vena. Next verse, translation.
This verse,
Very good.
This person born from Queen Vena's thighs was named Vaibhav, and his complexion was as black as the crows. All the limbs of his body were very short. His arms and legs were short, and his jaws were large. His nose was flat, his eyes were reddish, and his hair copper colored.
Next. Next verse.
He was very submissive and meek, and immediately after his birth, he bowed down and inquired, Sirs, what shall I do? The great sages replied, Please sit down, Nishada. Thus, Nishada, the father of the Nishada race, was born.
So he was very humble, submissive. So he asked, what should I do? So Nishida means sit down. So from him, Nishada race appeared. And then next verse, translation.
That king from Nishad Raja.
Guha.
After his Nishada's birth, he immediately took charge of all the resultant actions of King Vena's sinful activities. As such, this Nishada class are always engaged in sinful activities like stealing, plundering, and hunting. Consequently, they are only allowed to live in the hills and the forest.
So Prabhupada writes how they are sinful by birth, but by the practice of bhakti, they can be transformed. Kirat, Hunandra, Pulinda, Pulkasha, Abhira, Shumva, Yavana, Kasadaya, Yanneja, Papa, Yadapa, Shraya, Shuddhanti, they become purified. Prabhupada writes about the process, purifying power of devotional service. Anybody can get delivered. Yepisyu Papa Yonaha, they can be liberated. So that's how this King Vena, he was born and then he was sent to the forest. ये 15 chapter quickly खत्म कर दें. Nothing much to describe. So now after this, what they did? Next verse, 15th chapter, first verse.
The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vikura, thus the Brahmanas and the great sages again turned the two arms of King Vena's body, dead body. As a result, a male and female couple came out of his arms.
Next.
Great sages were highly learned in Vedic knowledge, and they saw the male and female born of arms of Vena's body. They were very pleased, but they could understand that couple was an expansion of the plenary portion of Vishnu, Supreme Person of Godhead.
So as they churned out the sinful part, sent him to forest, again churned the hands, and churning of the hands created a couple, male and female. And they could understand that he was an empowered representative. He was not avatar. He was not Vishnu Tattva. Of course, he was avatar, but Shaktyavesh avatar. He was not Vishnu Tattva. So Prithu Maharaj represents the Palana Shakti of the Lord, administrative potency of the Lord. So he appeared. Rishaya Uchuhu. Yesha Vishnor Bhagavata.
Yesha Vishnur
Kala
Bhagavatam
Bhuvan Palini.
Kala Bhuvan
Namcha
Palini
Lakshmya Sambhuti.
Sambhuti
Prashasyana Paini.
Satyanapayini. The great sages said, the male is a plenary expansion of the power of Lord Vishnu, who maintains the entire universe, and the female is plenary expansion of the goddess of fortune, who is never separated from Lord. Hare Krishna.
Kala Bhuvan Palini. He is Kala. He is a plenary expansion who maintains the universe. Bhuvana Palini. And this female, Yamcha, they are pointing out. Ye jo hai na, they are pointing out. He is avatar of the Lord, Vishnu, and she is the expansion of Lakshmi. She is Lakshmi Sambhuti. She is a plenary expansion of goddess of fortune. Purushasya Anapayini. Lakshmi is never separated from the Lord. So Prabhupada focuses on that. One cannot separate goddess of fortune from Vishnu. Prabhupada talks about Ravan and all that. If a materialist follows the policy of Ravan, he'll be vanquished. Those who are very rich and have taken the favor of goddess of fortune must engage their money in service of the Lord. Otherwise, they'll be vanquished. And then they point to Prithu. Ayam tu prathamo ragyam
अयं तु
पुमान्
प्रथमो
प्रथयिता यशः
पुमान् प्रथयिता
पृथुर्नाम महाराजो भविष्यति
महाराजो
पृथुश्रवा.
भविष्यति पृथुष्टवा.
The name he will be able to expand his reputation throughout the world. His name will be Prithu. Indeed, he will be the first among the kings.
So now they are, first they told about two, ये Lakshmi के अवतार हैं Vishnu. Now they are focusing on Prithu. I am two. This male is Prathamo Ragya. He is the first among the kings. And Puman Prathayita Yashaha. He'll expand his reputation all over the world. And he'll be known as Prithu Nam Maharaj. And he'll be Prithu Shrava. He'll be widely renowned. Prabhupada writes, Chakravarti Thakur writes, this signifies that the power of Kshatriyas and the power of Lord lies in the hands of Kshatriya. Because that's where Lord appeared. Prabhupada writes, there are different incarnations of the Lord. It is said that Garuda, Shiva, Ananta, they are powerful incarnations of the Brahman feature. Shachi is the incarnation of lusty feature. Aniruddha is the Lord's mind, avatar of that. Prithu is the incarnation of Bhuvanapalini, administrative potency. And then they point to Archi. Who is Archi? Iyam cha Sudati Devi. Guna Bhushana Bhushana. Archirnama Vararoha.
Archirnama Vararoha
Eva Varundhati.
Prathameva Varundati.
The female has such beautiful teeth and beautiful qualities that she will actually beautify the ornaments she wears. Her name will be Archie. In the future, she will accept King Prithu as her husband.
Sudati Devi, beautiful teeth and beautiful qualities. Guna Bhushana Bhushana. Anywhere else this has come? Bhushana Bhushanangam. Anywhere else? Anyone remembers? Not in Bhagavatam. It is said that when Lord Ram manifests some qualities, that quality is glorified because Lord Ram is manifesting that quality. Guna Bhushana Bhushana. And she'll accept Prithu as her king. So, Esha Shakshadhare Ramsho
Isha Shakshadhare
Jato
Ramsho
Lokari Rakshaya
Jata Lokari
Yam
Rakshaya
Chatparahi Shri
Yam Chatparami
Anujagye
Shri
Anapayini.
Nujat Paini. In the form of King Prithu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared through a part of his potency to protect the people of the world. The goddess of fortune is the constant companion of Lord, and therefore she has incarnated partially as Archie to become King Prithu's queen. Hare Krishna.
So that's how the Lord has appeared as Prithu and Archie has appeared now. Naturally, when the Lord appears, all the people would be very happy. So now Maitreya Muni says, translation.
The great sage Maitreya continued, my dear Viduji, at that time all the Brahmanas highly praised and glorified King Prithu, and the best singers of Gandharva Loka chanted his glories. The inhabitants of Siddha Loka showered flowers, and the beautiful women in the heavenly planets danced in guests.
So this is a general standard SOP. भगवान प्रकट हुए, चलो भाई ये सब अप्सराएं डांस करेंगी, flowers will be showered, गंधर्व will sing. That is happening.
इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स के बारे में नहीं बताइए.
आएगा आगे
आएगा.
हाँ आगे वही.
Drums.
Translation next verse.
Drums.
Yeah.
Traveled in outer space, Lord sages, forefathers, and transcended from the heavenly planets, all came to earth with various planets.
Next.
Lord Brahma, the master of the entire universe, arrived there accompanied by all the demigods and their chiefs. Seeing the lines of Lord Vishnu's palm on the King Prithu's right hand, The impressions of lotus flowers on the source of his feet. Brahma could understand that King Prithu was a partial representation of supreme personal goddess, on whose palms bear the sign of a disc, as well as other such lines, should be considered a partial representation or incarnation of Supreme Lord.
So reading this, anybody can guess what Prabhupada would comment on in this verse? No. Astrology nahi.
Those who consider themselves as God.
How to understand who is God? So Brahma, how he concluded that Prithu is a avatar of the Lord? Seeing the symptoms, lines and the markings. So Prabhupada says, there is a system by which one can detect the incarnation. Not that anybody, any rascal comes and says, I am God. So Prabhupada writes about that. There are various things one should see before declaring one to be God. He should be mentioned in scriptures. He should be accepted by great acharyas. He should perform some extraordinary, superhuman activities. And he should have bodily symptoms of a great personality. There are 32 symptoms of a great personality. बताया रहेगा ना आपको. पंच दीर्घ, पंच सूक्ष्म, सप्त रक्त, षडुन्नतः, त्रिरस्व, पृथुगंभीरो, द्वात्रिंशल लक्षणो महान. Chaitanya Charitamrita mentions that when the Lord appeared, all these 32 symptoms are there. 5 are large, 5 are small, 7 are very fine, 3 are 3 rasva prithu gambiras. 3 are broad, 3 are grave, 3 are very small. वो क्या क्या है वो बाद में बता देंगे. So not anyone can be accepted as Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada writes about that. Translation, next verse.
The learned Brahmanas who were very attached to the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies then arranged for the king's coronation. People from all directions collected all the different paraphernalia for the ceremony. Thus everything was complete.
Next.
All the rivers, seas, hills, mountains, serpents, cows, birds, animals, heavenly planets, the earthly planet, and all other living entities collected various presentations according to their ability to offer it.
Everybody is coming to offer something to the avatar of the Lord. So we'll keep on just reading. There is no purport in this.
Thus the great King Prithu, exquisitely dressed with garments and ornaments, was coronated and placed on the throne. The king and his wife Achi, who was also exquisitely ornamented, appeared exactly like fire.
Next.
The great sage continued, my dear Vidura, Kubera presented the great King Prithu with a golden throne. Demigod Varuna presented him with an umbrella that constantly sprayed fine particles of water and was as brilliant as the
So you must have seen that famous picture, na? Prithu Maharaj ka. All the devatas are getting various offerings. Yeah. So this is the same description. So all the BBT paintings are made on some description.
Yes.
ऐसा नहीं कि मन में आया तो बना दिया कुछ. One time one devotee painted Krishna. One time one devotee painted a scenery, Vrindavan, and he thought Krishna must be there. Na? So he painted Krishna also. So he thought it should be approved by Prabhupada. So he went and showed Prabhupada, I made this painting. Prabhupada said, which verse?
Okay.
Prabhupada, Krishna is unlimited. Prabhupada said, Krishna is unlimited, you are limited. Stick to the subject. Stick to Bhagavatam. So that's how Prabhupada has very nicely trained the artists. Yes, translation, next verse.
The demigod of air, the demigod of air, Vayu,
पढ़िए माताजी पढ़िए.
Hare Krishna. The demigod of air, Vayu, presented King Prithu with 2 discs of hair. The king of religion, Dharma, presented him with a flower garland which would expand his fame. The king of heaven, Indra, presented him with a valuable helmet, and the superintendent of death, Yamraj, presented him with a
Scepter.
scepter with which to rule the world. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
So I will stop here. We'll continue, and these are the various presentations. So all of you can read this entire chapter. These are just the translations. कौन क्या क्या लेके आए हैं, कौन क्या क्या offerings दे रहे हैं. So the entire chapter is full of that, and we'll continue from verse number 22. Not the entire chapter. Verse 22, Prithu Maharaj is speaking something very interesting. He says, आप लोग इतना गुणगान कर रहे हैं, मेरे में तो ये सब है ही नहीं अभी. I have not done any of this. Why are you glorifying me? So what he answered is amazing. We'll continue from verse number 22. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagvatam ki.
Jai.